Thanks for joining us for Political Talk on another PolitiPod Live. I'm Tom Bickle,
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
here to discuss current political events. Tonight we'll cover judges and their findings, Russia's U.S. version of the Ukrainian war peace deal. We ask what's next for Madge, Trump's war on America and conservative political violence, stuff about Trump, and what Latinos are thinking about America. We'll also have our segments on the media and rebellions happening. But we'll start with
Judgment Day. This is about some judges and what they've been saying recently, some rulings they've been making. And one is a judge dismissing the indictments against James Comey and Letitia James due to the unlawful appointment of the prosecutor. Lindsay Halligan, who's never prosecuted a case in her entire life, was handpicked by Trump to lead these cases for the government. And in dismissing the cases, the judge pointed out her appointment was not ratified by the Senate. And it's that pesky little Constitution getting in the way again. The paperwork was done wrong. She was filling things out incorrectly or not filling them out at all. And therefore, to put it in the terms of a TV show host someone might recognize out there, she was fired. Anything about the Comey and James cases?
excellent summation. Thank you for that. Uh, it blows my mind. If you're going to take a swing like that, if you're going to go through all the trouble to prosecute your political enemies, you might want to try to be effective at it. And they just aren't and weren't and continue not to be. Thank God. That thought leads to this thought. Thank God we are so lucky that this America's first dictator is old and sick and as dumb as a post and bad at it, and seems to bring his own poison pill just as he is ascending, his throne of despotism. He brings his own end to it. This Epstein thing, that's all him. All his criminality, that's all him. And it's, if I can look how easily we've fallen prey to this. Thank God that he is all those things, and the people around him are incompetent. Not as in they're less competent now in this term, and thank God for that. Because every time, and I heard this the first time around after the insurrection, every time that they try and don't get punished for it, it's just practice, and they're going to get better. And that's what they're doing. So when and if we get the ability to apply some accountability to this, we absolutely should, and we should do it without fail, without lagging, without waiting, without undue slowing downishness. Can't think of the word. I think I'm
Well,
having
and
a mild mental event right now. But anyway, you get me. We can't go soft on these people anymore. This is what it gets us.
yeah, and you're the point you're making is absolutely right. Look, who's someone who can fail with casinos 4 times? That takes that takes talent. I mean, you've got to
That
really work at not being able to run a casino, and not only that, but not doing it correctly 4 times.
Well, I feel like you're righter about that than maybe you mean to be. I don't think it's an accident that those casinos failed. I think that don't you think that there's at least a hint of some sort of chicanery, some mob action, some sort of fraud writ large in the background of that? Am I crazy?
Honestly, I just think it's incompetence, gross incompetence. There's just
Hmm.
a lack of interest in doing things, and certainly a lack of doing them well or with any sort of intellectual pinnings. So yeah, they fail, and then of course, when he's failed in the past, he's a very he comes from wealth, so somebody else cleans up, and he doesn't even think twice about it. Why should he? So every time he does something that is horribly illegal, he hesitates. You see it in what he says and does and how he acts, and he kind of realizes that he's screwed up. But he always knows that somebody's going to swoop in and make certain that the rich kid's taken care of, and he's not going to have to pay a penalty. That's why that, in my opinion, is that's why the Epstein thing is such a uh, a particular instance, because he was the one who was flogging it. He was the one saying everybody else was the problem, which, he's
Yeah,
avoiding responsibility again.
yeah.
Big surprise.
He built his
Um,
own gallows on this one.
but this one, right, exactly. But this is the one that can really crush him, and he'll actually have to pay a penalty. It's just like when he made a couple of peace deals. He made up that he did all sorts of ones, but there were actually ones that he actually had a hand in attempting to make peace deals. But he all of a sudden started making these strange statements that none of us understood at the time. But he started talking about, oh, I'll never be able to get into heaven. Uh, I should be going to heaven now. And nobody realized at the time, but what that was him saying, I did something. Look at me, poo poo in the potty. Look at what I did. And it's his way of sort of trying to say, "Oh, I did something." And it's the same with the bad stuff. He does the bad stuff, and he gets caught, and he gets all angry, and he gets all starts saying all sorts of weird things, and you don't make the connection at the time. Um, so just like from the first time around, the first administration before he was elected, when he was running, all of a sudden he started making weird comments about Ted Cruz's father being the second shooter in the Kennedy assassinations, and it was like, that is so out of left field. What is he? What is the problem with Cruz? What
Yeah,
is he
where's that
doing?
come from? Yeah.
And nobody knew. Nobody knew it at the time, but like a couple of weeks later, what's her name up in Alaska? Uh, uh, Wasilla, Alaska. What's her name up there?
Oh, for Pete's
Right,
sake.
exactly. That's
Um,
probably a good thing. So I'm
yeah.
gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna roll with it. But we all know who we were talking about. McCain's running mate. Um, and then about
Yeah.
a couple of weeks later, all of a sudden,
What a
she
great
withdrew her
feeling.
endorsement.
Hmm.
What?
What a great feeling that we can't remember her name. How pleasant.
Yes, exactly. But a few weeks later, she withdrew her endorsement of Cruz. She had previously endorsed Cruz. Then she withdrew it and went with Trump. He was buttering her up. Part of his
Ah,
trying to woo her was to undermine Cruz and to start attacking Cruz. So it didn't make sense. But then later on, it's sort of, in retrospective, it's like, oh, okay, I see.
yeah, that
That's
makes
what's
sense.
happening. So that's the sort of thing we're talking about. And this is, but it is pure incompetent. He simply picked someone he liked. He liked the woman in the suit, and so he made her the next thing that he had on his list to do was set up these false prosecutions. And so, yeah, sure, she can do it. And it's that sort of incompetence that he he constantly reinforces, allegedly. Um, and so moving on and speaking about judges still. In Brazil, you may have heard that there's been a judge to decide that the former president um, used up all his appeals in trying to stay out of jail for a coup attempt that he made after he lost an election. Bolsonaro had been on home arrest, and he had an ankle monitor, which he broke. He broke and removed the ankle monitor. And when the judge called him on that, he said he blamed that on having hallucinations and needing to break out of it. So the reward for that is that he is now in prison. He's been sentenced to prison for 27 years. He's being held at a federal police office instead of being handed over to the military to put in their prisons. And now, of course, everyone, his supporters are all uh, greatly agitated over the fact that he's in jail. But he earned it. He earned it two or three times over, and there it finally actually happened. So the idea of a political leader who loses an election, starts a coup, and ends up in jail, kind of a nice meme. Any thought on our Brazilian friends?
It seems like justice served and a good thing, but We just watched Sarkozy walk in and then back out of a jail after what, a week? I guess during his appeal. I
Right,
mean,
right.
that's pretty cushy. So one, it looks like the hammer is falling for justice on one day, and then a week later you feel like a schmuck. So, good. I mean, glad it's got this far, but nothing seems to matter these days. Every time a judge, the good judge giveth, and the good judge taketh away. So hopefully it sticks. I'm skeptical, Matt, and I've been hurt before.
Perfectly legit. Perfectly legit. So we'll have to sit back and watch that one. But let's see if Bolsonaro actually winds up serving the majority of his time. Um, Moving on, we've got the issue of the Ukrainian war and Russia's invasion. And U.S. Senator former senator, now part of the administration, Marco Rubio, has announced a wonderful peace deal for Russia. And it's actually, once people started looking at the details, they kind of noticed it was everything that Russia wants and nothing that Ukraine says that they want to see happen. So, and then later on, it came out that a special envoy, Steve Witkoff, went to the Russians and sort of coached them as to here are the things you should ask for from Trump in the peace deal. So it was put together nicely, piece by piece, from basically from what Putin has asked for, through an American envoy back to the Russians, back to Trump. And this is the deal that was offered. After it was offered immediately, they started backpedaling on it and saying, "Here's we've got to change a thing here. Oh, wait, no, there's some detail. Oh, let us work on this a little bit more." So things are after the European allies also started noticing some issues with the details, but basically it just gives the chunks of Ukraine and Donbass and such the regions like Crimea and Donbass. It says that peace is achievable by giving them to Russia, and I don't know that anybody other than Russia could be particularly interested in seeing that happen. And it's that sort of peace in our time sort of deal that we've heard of before and that have not been so great when they were offered before. And
Yeah.
this is a you're on your screen. You see the one of the comics that's come out, cartoons that's come out since, and it's on target. It's saying exactly what's this in a picture is doing. This the thousand words. What do you think, Tom?
I think you're right. I had understood that it was my understanding that Putin didn't need Witkoff to tell him what to ask for. I pictured Putin telling Witkoff what he needed to ask for, but you're probably better. You're definitely better read on the subject than I am. So that was anyway. That was a twist that was a little new to me, and yeah, I feel like I don't know. It seems apparent to me that Trump is carrying Putin's water, and I'm surprised he hasn't done more damage to Ukraine's ability to defend itself. Uh, I don't think we should expect them to do anything reasonable or useful, at least not as far as Ukraine sees it. It's my considered opinion that Donald Trump is all about selling out whatever he can of this country out the back of a truck. As long as he gets a cut, he doesn't care if he sells out the country's good fortune for $100 billion. As long as he gets 15%, he will definitely sell all of us down the river. And so I feel like this is one of those times. This is one of those incredibly important outcomes that we can't entrust to this president, and yet we have no ability to take his tiny little hands off of it. And so we just have to watch it float on by, uh, and do hope for the best, and hopefully the system, and hope that the system will defend some portions and retain what it can. But it's dark days.
Right. Well, we'll see where it actually leads. And with people raising objections, that's In the scenario where he's a king, people don't get to ask and people don't get to point things out,
Right.
and so he's clearly not got that standing anymore, and people are actually reacting to it by challenging him. So I think things are not as uh, uh, things are not as dire as they could be. Um, Speaking of dire,
Yes.
we should maybe move on to our first segment. This is the segment known as On the Media. I think I'll hand it over to you and let you go into the details.
Well, in the media this week, X, formerly known as Twitter, uh, features heavily in the media referred to in our title here. A funny thing happened at X this past week, and they waved a magic wand, and all of a sudden you could see where every account on X apparently came from and was originated in. And a lot of our MAGA friends were in odd places like Macedonia and Israel, and just a lot of accounts. And that was really eye opening to a lot of people. I'm still not sure what to make of it myself, but it's a really pretty profound peekaboo, and I have to wonder. I don't feel like this happened entirely by accident. It seems like this would be an odd thing to to let slip, and so if it's intentional, you can only attribute it to the boss. And so and so it makes my scheming little rodent brain wonder: was it intentional? Was it meant to start trouble with MAGA or pull some slip covers back? What do you think?
Well, and actually, and you were mentioning foreign based Russia, Nigeria, India, Thailand were some of the other places that you had mentioned to me before. And
Ain't none of
the
them
thing,
Kansas.
yeah. um, but the one thing I will sort of ask about a little bit more, because I certainly don't understand. It could be that it's Elon taking a shot at Trump, but their little romance is back on. I thought their bromance was rekindled when over the Kirk shooting, and I
You
don't
can't
know
tell the
that
players without a
there's
scorecard, Matt.
fair enough. It certainly could be. There's no doubt about it. But I also wonder. This is the sort of thing where 6 months later you find out that there was some minor employee who was axed, and on his way out, he jumped into the control room and hit the button, and
There you
just to
go.
screw to throw a screw in the works. Um, so I think there's we it will be interesting if we're able to find out more. Of course, it's X is a private company, so they can be pretty tight with information, and we may not ever know.
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple of possibilities that it could be, and it's one of those is what you were saying. It could be that Elon's just stirring up trouble and wants to still pursue the what was it, a vendetta? Maybe, I don't know. The whole thing of running a third party maybe got to him, and he really wants to get back to that idea. Um, and maybe it was even in retaliation because Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, was actually closed. It was closed something like 6 or 8 months earlier than it was supposed to be sundown.
That's
And
right.
so,
That's true. Captain Chainsaw was the head of Doge, and it's he can't go there and play anymore. That door has shut apparently. Maybe it was
well,
a fit of pique related to that.
all closed after he got contracts and X got contracts and
Yeah,
SpaceX and whoever else whatever else he runs got a bunch of big fat government contracts in exchange for his work there. So he's not harmed by Doge being closed, but maybe it would tick him off a little bit, and he wanted to throw a little you know cannonball across the poop deck and see if he could get some attention. And okay, so if this is that, job well done, Elon. Um, And the other thing that happened with X?
The other thing that happened with X, Candace Owens, always good for a laugh. Candace Owens poked her head up, and you'll remember Candace Owens from previous shenanigans, like accusing current French President Macron's wife of being born a man and pretending about her gender. Yeah, really classy stuff like that, and getting sued for it. Well, she's back. She is claiming that French President Macron, she just can't get enough, that he and his wife executed upon and paid for my assassination. She also claims that someone close to the White House has confirmed this, and she's in hiding and afraid for her life, and something about the Foreign Legion, French Foreign Legion, etc., etc. So that was, I guess, notable that a crazy person said something crazy about somebody famous, and uh, I don't know. I mean, we
Well,
make these people celebrities, Matt. I don't know what that says more about them or us.
well, we don't. I'll tell you what.
I
Somebody
haven't bought
does,
her.
but
I haven't bought anything she sells. You're right.
not around here. But yeah, I mean, Candace Owens says there was a source near the White House. Who knows? She took a bicycle ride past Pennsylvania Avenue. Said it to herself on the bicycle while she was passing the.
Right.
It's well,
Maybe a
you know.
gardener as she rode by said, "Yeah, sure, lady." And probably that was the
Yeah,
agreement.
exactly. So it could mean anything, and it could be anything, and it certainly gets some interest stirred up back to looking at her. Let's get some attention here. You can always claim that there's an assassination plot, very popular these days, even to call plain old shootings assassinations and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm sure she said it. I'm sure she has no actual sources and no actual actionable material, as they say.
And no
Um,
actual end game. What is the point of all this? She's going to get sued into oblivion for saying that the woman is a man, and there's no point in getting. I mean, what is the purpose? What could possibly? There's no book deal. Maybe that's the medium term. She's going to get a TV show or a book deal or some sort of media attention. Maybe she'll have a bio of her life, and then she'll win an Oscar. I don't know.
yeah, and I don't think she'll get. I mean, I don't think Macron's wife or the French government is gonna go on a tear to try to get Candace Owens in front of a judge. They
Is
could.
there
It'd
an
be
is there a potential upside, Matt? Is she just a person in need of medication? What's your estimation on this?
just a person who needs attention. It's got nothing to do with medication. Got nothing to do with being true. It's just look at me, look at me. People haven't looked at me in a little while, so
I guess so.
someone's trying to assassinate me.
Uh,
Uh,
that show business is a hungry, hungry beast.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Always hungry.
what a way to go. But let's keep our eye on her. Let's make certain she's safe and see if uh, see if anything happens to her here.
Yeah,
Uh, Someone who has to look out for themselves actually
yeah.
would be
Newly.
yeah. Moving on to our next issue. That's what's next for Madge, and that's a real question because Marjorie Taylor Greene has quit Congress since our last episode,
That's right.
and she says that it turns out that her pension was vested 2 days before the date she retired on, so she's going to be okay. I want everyone to know.
That's a
Don't
strong
worry
work
about
ethic. She put in 2 more days than she mathematically absolutely had to. And she's gonna run through the tape, Matt. She's gonna fill those days with just value for her constituents and America at large. Count on it.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, so that's I'm sure that's a coincidence. Actually, I'm sure that the money angle on it was purely, you know, had
Incidental, really.
had nothing to
Almost
do
not
with it,
worth
and she was
mentioning.
really well. Look, she spent years being vilified by the left,
As because she's a villain. But yeah,
and because she's a villain, but she never needed to do anything like hire extra security or anything like that because of you know, the nature of the left. However, she did piss off Donald Trump and the conservatives. And about 2 days after she started doing that, she did start paying for extra security to make certain that she was safe because of the threats that were coming in from the right.
Yeah, I would. It's
And
I noticed it was quickly pointed out on social media that she's spent years pissing off Democrats. People think she's terrible and can't say enough bad things about her. 2 days, 2 days, she got on Trump's bad side, and she's like, "I need to arm up. I need to get some big beefy people with guns to watch my backside." I mean, come on, dude. You can't don't give me this left wing, right wing, same bird bull that people love to drop into because they're out of touch enough that it makes them feel like they're being intellectual, and it just seems like they're just unplugged. Anyway, yeah,
yeah,
she couldn't make it
completely,
2 days.
yeah,
It speaks for
completely,
itself.
yeah, completely disassociated from reality when you get into this. Oh, the left and the right are exactly the same, and there's perfect balance, and it's because things, you know, as 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 far alt right as people can go is exactly how far they are on the left, and so that's once again disproven by everything she's done.
Well, I don't want to rush you, but I am interested in your opinion on this. But please go ahead, because I have a question when you're ready.
I tell you what, do that, and then I'll wrap this up. Go ahead.
Okay, so why quit though? Why quit just a few days after your benefits vest? I mean, I get that part. Okay, but if you really care about these victims, she just got done putting herself shoulder to shoulder, allying herself with these victims, saying, "Boy, they deserve some justice." And the first thing I'm going to do is let go of any lever of power, any pull I have in this country. I'm going to drop out and f off back to the golf course or the gym or the bridge she lives under, whatever she's doing. And she's out. She's not going to advocate for them. She's not going to try to even budge any legislation. She's not going to go on Fox News and wave her arms back and forth like she used to. None of it. None of it. You're just quitting. I mean, I know you're rich and you've got FU money and or at least FO money, and she's going to FO. But why quit now? I don't think her life. Listen, the Democrats managed to not get shot by Trump's, flying monkeys day in and day out for weeks, months, and years at a time. She can't stick it out for a little while. And again, she's so holy, and she's sorry for the tone that she absolutely spent overtime every week pumping into the atmosphere like carbon monoxide, just poison, poison, poison. The woman wouldn't stop. She chased David Hogg down the street, school shooting survivor. She a 17-year-old or whatever he was, 19, I don't know, he's a young guy at the time, chasing him down the street, ranting at him. Yeah, she's sorry for all that. She's not going to spend a minute making up for it. She's not going to spend an ounce of energy. People are talking about she's going to try to be governor or president or Lord of the Flies or whatever it is. I don't know, but we talked about this before. Let me know when she apologizes to David Hogg. Other than that, it's all smoke. It's all smoke, and I'm sick of the smell.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. And there's I wish I did know more as to what the purpose is or what the actual reason is. And I don't know that. If I did, I expect that we would be hosting this week
I just wonder
instead of
if it's
here.
really for
But
safety or if she's just done with it and she has enough money. I don't know. I'd be interested
I
as a
don't know.
human.
It's got to be something with him. I do think you make an excellent point. There is a there is a race for Georgia governor coming up. We do have a presidential cycle where Trump will not be a candidate. So are either of those? You know, she's raised her national profile, as they say. So is there something there, a national office that she feels that she could step into?
I do
Um,
I do point out that it was recently rumored she wanted to be a senator, and then they stepped on her little dreams, and that was part of the cause of the rift. Maybe at least it was rumored. So maybe that's how she's taking a parallel step and going for governorship or something else. But still, the bird in the hand, Matt. It's worth two in the bush.
Right, right. Well, but also there's more of a chance that she may not do any run, because if she's going to run for any office, you can be sure that Trump is petty enough that he will rant and rave against her, whether it's governor or dog catcher in back in Northwest Georgia.
Yeah,
She's going to have she's going to get challenged, and
for
they
sure.
say that this is, all these Republicans who are um, not MAGAs constantly keep dropping like flies, as you say. They simply disappear. They quit. They don't want to run again. They don't want to stand up for what they say are their principles. They are perfectly willing to speak truth to power and at the same time leave. So they're not following. And she's just the latest example of someone who's disagreeing with Trump, but at the same time um, doesn't have so much of a fight left in her that she's going to actually show up and stay in office and fight them right
Right?
on the governmental turf.
She's the pit bull.
None of
She's
them
the
do.
feisty one. She's the, give him hell kind of person. And she's like, I'm out. I gotta go. My mom's calling. I hear my money waiting for me at home.
Well, right. Until Trump's support base of support dissipates, none of them are going to stand up to him. And
Pathetic.
there's just none of them that have the fortitude now. Um, it's possible with the whole Epstein thing that is where is you would expect that sort of thing to happen after he's a lame duck. But with the Epstein thing, maybe lame duckery has a head start, and maybe people are willing to start. There are those people who signed the discharge petition, including her. There are people who are willing to disagree with him publicly now, whereas they were none of them, regardless of who they were or where they were from, uh, ever even thought of challenging him prior to it. So maybe the worms turned or starting to turn now. And then maybe there will be some who actually retain their government power and actually work towards the goals that they are now proclaiming are their concerns. Could be
Anything can happen.
too true. And speaking of the very context that we were just addressing in the right wing and death threats, etc., I'm sure you've heard, there are a number of Democratic elected officials who have made videos recently talking to military personnel and discussing the obligation they have to not follow illegal orders. This is something that is internationally in law. This is something that is in American law, and even specifically in the Military Code of Justice, where it says you are it's your responsibility to not follow illegal orders. This is not something that was made up a week ago. This is not something that is just somebody said on a video and walked away. This is something that's well established for years and decades. And these Democratic officials happen to say that thing, and Trump's response was, this is an act of treason that they would say somebody should not follow something I say, and they should be put to death. So, where's the political violence coming from or being suggested from? Uh, oh, look, once again, it's from the right. So, there's I think there's even a cartoon of that incident and mocking it a little, but at the same time, what Al Franken calls "kidding on the square." Have you ever heard that?
I haven't.
He's so one of Al Franken's comedian, writer and with Saturday Night Live, etc., and then later became a United States senator from Minnesota. But he talks about a thing called kidding on the square, where you want to make a joke about something, but you also want to sneak in the truth there. You want to
Mm,
give a little bit of a truth as well as but give it a humorous sort of coating. And so that's what we have here. The donkey saying don't follow illegal orders, and the Trump character saying kill him. Literally happened. That is actually what happened.
right.
And but put into a cartoon form for people to see. Um, Now the next step in that, which is rather disturbing, frankly, is that the Pentagon has said that it will recall someone who had served in the military, which it does have the right to do. When somebody serves in the military, they are subject to recall if the Pentagon deems it necessary. But in this case, it's a current senator, a former astronaut, an American hero, Mark Kelly from out in Arizona. And the Pentagon has said we're going to recall him into service so that we can have an investigation, a military investigation of this, what he's saying, and if there's any sort of action that will be required because of what he has said, and possibly to punish him. Um, Absolutely, it's their own military code of justice that says this once again. So how they're going to work the investigation, we'll see what happens if they do anything other than find that he was simply restating their own code back to them. But there are other House members who have made the same statements, and there's been calls for the death of those House members by Trump, and that you know here we are again. What happened to the Charlie Kirk aftermath of being concerned for political violence, and what about the military code of justice? How do we kill a code of justice? We'll have to see what they come up with for that. Any thoughts?
Yeah, a few. I mean, first of all, we as not the Republicans have been slow in this psychological operation that started in late 2015, where the other side transgresses, they cheat, they do this, they do that, they do something that was unprecedented, and we stand around trying to analyze it and think of what to do. And while we're staring into the headlights, we get run over, much like deer. And we're slow to catch these tricks. And when Trump does things like these, we just are agog and we don't know what to do about it. You know what we end up doing? Not very much at all. Um, and I'm sick of um, being the sap for that. And we should be better than this, and we should demand better than this, and we haven't figured it out. It drives me a little crazy. Um, I don't know. I don't know
Let's
the
Yeah,
answer. I wish I had.
yeah, no, yeah. Well, that's we've said it. We've said it.
That's as far as I get. I mean, what do you do? People should, stochastic terrorism is a thing. Charlie Kirk was a thing. We all pretended we're better. Oh, this is the thought I was trying to get to, and I lost. What it comes down to is we're slow on the uptake, and we keep saying, "Well, what if Obama did this? Oh my goodness, can you imagine?" And we just look at each other, um, just confronted, and oh, can you believe it? And we clutch our pearls. Um, it all comes down to a double standard. They want the laws to apply to everyone but them. They want special dispensation. They want every break, every benefit of every doubt when it comes to them and the people that they espouse, but only their little group. Everyone else gets the full measure of the law, gets the book thrown at them, gets more than the book thrown at good book that don't even have anything to do with anything thrown at them, like Comey and James. It's a double standard, and it is we're too slow to recognize it, and we should understand it for what it is. We should recognize it for what it is and act accordingly. and realize that we've been dealing with people who haven't had credibility in decades. They have spent every day of every year for the last several years, if not the last several decades, just taking any integrity and any credibility and just pounding it in tiny and smaller rocks until it's pea gravel, and there's you can't build anything on it because there's no integrity there, there's no sincerity. When they allege something, we give it way too much credence. We stop and we go, he's got a point. And what about the rule of law? When it's all entirely nonsensical. It's we give them too much credit. We give them too much credence as if they mean anything they say. They stand there and they lie to each other and they lie to us, bald faced, and we just don't seem to know what to do with that. And so we go through the motions like we always did, and we engage with them as if they are an honest interlocutor, an honest partner that we can work with, and we absolutely can't, because what comes next, we're terrified of that. If it isn't peace, then it's something else, and that's not good. But they keep trying to take things that aren't theirs, and that's what happens when you take things that aren't yours, is it gets to trouble. And we are terrified and flinching away from the trouble part. When Unfortunately, when we do stand up to these people, it works. You just have to do it. You just tell them no, and they go, okay, well, I'll go try it on somebody else, or I'll come back try it on you later. But they go away. What kills me is that people don't. The media pays them out. The senators and Congress people, they bow their heads and get the hell out of the way and let him do whatever he wants, and they say whatever they have to after they're picking their hat up off the floor. And we don't just tell them no. Just tell them that's dumb. That's not what we do here. Screw off. Every time they do that, every time someone does that, it pretty much works, except for the immigrants. Other than that, you can tell them to get bent and it's effective, and we're just not doing it. I think that's just what we have to do. And it's all double standard. It's nonsense, and there's no integrity or truth behind anything they say.
Well, that brings us to the next segment. Actually, there's
How convenient.
rebellions happening, and that's there's examples of what's happening in the world, and there's some rather interesting things happening in Nepal, for instance. There were concerns over corrupt government and nepotism, where government officials were bringing in family members to fill positions, and there was just enough of it that people finally started to protest. And in fact, during some of these protests in Nepal, there were 14 students who were shot dead during the protests, and that upped the ante, so to speak. And the protesters returned what they were given, and ended up starting fires in parts of the in um, Kathmandu, and in one case, the prime minister's house was burned, and his wife was still in the house. She was killed in one of the fires that was started.
Wow.
And so, after the government collapsed, in due because of that corruption, because they tried to ban social media, uh, the Gen Zers turned to the Discord app, and they started using a channel that was set up for video gamers, but they actually named it Youth Against Corruption, and wound up getting 100,000 people onto this gamer thread, and they were actually discussing what to do next, who should be the next leader of the country, how they were going to approach people, and they organized completely on this Youth Against Corruption, and they did. They wound up picking the first woman chief justice of the nation, Shashila Karki, who then used that support to enter discussions with the government and with the army and with the president. And she's now the prime minister. So she stepped into it all by that support from the people, willing to protest and willing to organize. So a very strong, interesting case of what rebellion can do.
Huh.
And
It can
there
be
you see.
effective, you say. Good to know.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, here you go. You got that picture of some of the protests that were going on, and some that were both the picture previous and this one, where there's just that people power at work, and it worked out to bring about a new prime minister. There's also the case of do you have anything about Nepal before we
No, no,
move
please
on?
don't let me slow you down.
All right. Well, the another case currently is the Philippines. There's a couple of different things happening in the Philippines. Some very small and local, and then a particular thing that is very large and very much being organized. This is the some of the protests there you can see, and there was a something called the Trillion Peso March, and a large scale anti corruption movement that began last year. And allegations were that billions of pesos had been lost to bogus flood control projects and kickbacks allegedly going to government officials and lawmakers. And the people acted. They got together, they protested, they drew hundreds of thousands of people into the capital and other cities, and they demanded transparency and accountability. And that's what happened.
Well,
The anti corruption protesters had overlapped with the broader calls for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to resign, supported by other political factions. So they're even gaining more support within the political system. Go ahead.
well, how instructive. You mean a bunch of people didn't stand around pointing at each other and calling each other lib turds and uh, just being as evil as they could, but they got together anti corruption, you say? Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to note that for later. That seems instructive.
You're gonna write that down somewhere, are you?
Yeah, I feel like somebody should. It's positive example. You got to keep those in mind. It's good and important for a healthy outlook.
Yeah, yeah. Anti-corruption, transparency, and most importantly,
Solidarity.
solidarity. But most importantly, accountability. People being held accountable for their actions. That's that's a big one.
Well,
Speaking of
corruption
yes,
weakens like that, like a parasite, and pretty soon the body gets sickly and starts to wonder what's going on, and hopefully fights it off.
excellent point. The and speaking of accountability and someone who should be facing accountability, that brings us to our next issue, which is Trump stuff. And of course, the big issue that being the bill to release the Epstein files that did make it through, and he even signed into law, and it's given DOJ 30 days to get those files out. Of course, we know that a president can release them directly and automatically, and just like it did with the Martin Luther King files and
With the
the
wave of his hand, with a phone call. But no, let's go play fart around at Congress and one end of the country to the other end, and maybe I'll veto it, and maybe I won't, maybe Pam Bondi
well,
will.
this is past that. This is past that. I mean, this he did sign it, so it gives DOJ, pardon me, DOJ 30 days to release it, which is the weird thing because obviously, as you point out, he can just say release it and get it released, like the Kennedy stuff and the MLK stuff, and I think he released. I don't know. I think the the secret spices used in KFC just boom. He wanted it out there. It got
There
out
you
there.
go. Recipe for
And
Coke done.
got out there. Just dang it! I said it. Let's do it.
Yeah, he
Um,
he he would release anything he wants to within his own administration. He does what he wants in Congress's venue. He does what he wants on behalf of Congress. Things like tariffs. that aren't his purview at all. So to anyway, I know we've already punched this clown, uh, but we're gonna do it one more time till I feel
Let's do it a
better.
bunch. Yeah.
He he can do this himself. It's totally within his purview, and he's just happy to let it work its way through the Byzantine congressional. Which I mean, it did. I get that, but he's just happy to have this Rube Goldberg device to slow things down and let it run and through its little maze rather than just A B done.
Right. Yeah, and
Uh,
it's not Congress, it's DOJ, but you're right. It's a way to
Well, I mean,
delay
it had
things.
gone through Congress, though. It did. The House voted, and then the Senate, and that took some time. Again, when it could just be that. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. He could have just released it, period. And this 30 days for DOJ, uh, there is an issue of, well, what is happening to them? Are there? It's not unredacted. It's going to be heavily redacted, and I'll bet you his name, if it's in there. I mean, allegedly, it's in there. It could allegedly not be in there, but there may be several hundred mentions of his name that wind up getting redacted. But we'll see. We'll see what the DOJ actually does put forward. They do have that 30-day period. Another, actually, another thing of that he could apparently release at any time, and has been claiming to be
his
ready to
bowels,
release for 9 years. Huh?
his bowels,
He only does that
anytime.
from an airplane.
That's not the way I
Uh,
heard it. I hear he's packing a load, but go ahead.
um, well, another thing that he's been claiming that he's gonna get out there right this week or right in a day or two. We've been waiting almost 10 years. Is the anti-Obamacare program for health, and this week is the week we finally get to see the famous Republican response to Obama. Oh, just getting word that's been postponed.
They have
Uh,
concepts of a plan, I hear.
Concept, yes, concepts of a plan. Yeah, so we're back to the concepts of a plan. We certainly won't see anything anytime soon, but that the announcement that it was coming was once again brought up and postponed. So something else not being released. We talked a little bit about the whole issue of the calls for death of opponents, who mentioned that military personnel have an obligation to not pursue illegal orders. And also, the whole thing about the New York City mayor has popped up again. The mayor elect, Zoran Mamdani, went to the White House, and Trump had previously raged against the horrible things that he was going to do, and how that Mamdani was going to do, and how Trump was there to prevent anything because he's going to challenge him all the way, and there's going to be troops sent in, and there's going to be all these actions that Trump is going to do to prevent this horrible thing from happening. Mamdani went to the White House, met with him, and by the end of the meeting, Trump was actually saying that he was going to stand up for Mamdani, and he's going to make certain that he gets up there because Mamdani just wanted to make things affordable for New Yorkers, and that's what Trump wants too, and that was
That's
what
right. At the end
that
of the meeting, Trump was eating some sort of a Muslim cuisine dish, rice and goat, right out of Mamdani's hand. It was just beautiful. You rarely see that in the wild, and yet he had him going.
right, right, and now I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow Trump comes out and says the reason I initially endorsed Cuomo was to help Mamdani win. I'm the one. I'm responsible.
Right? You're
I'm the one
welcome.
who
I
made
deserve
certain
the
he got off.
Nobel Prize for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the soon-to-be former mayor Eric Adams has been out and about. He's been traveling worldwide. Actually, he said that at one point he said that there were offers being were pouring in to ask him to come to the cities of the world and make certain that they experience the miracle he provided New York. To which New Yorkers said, "Please go, um, help wherever else you want to
Take
go,
your time. That's right. Don't come
just
back
go."
anytime soon. You deserve
Um,
the rest.
and a real twist to that is that there's a group that gave him an award for being such a superior mayor. That was a group that had a presentation for him while he was in Israel. And now that he's back in the States, he's traveling down to Louisiana for a very similar presentation, which is interesting. Two different places. I think the catch, of course, is that it's the same group. The same group is basically repeating the same presentation wherever he goes,
Mm.
in every town and city or wherever he is. So I don't know if they use the same award each time or if he gets a different one from each dinner or I don't know. But whatever the truth to that is, maybe somebody can tell us. Matter of fact, there might even be someone in the chat right now. My goodness. Can you see the chat?
Yes. Yes, I can.
And what do we have? A judge has ordered that U.S. troops in Washington, D.C. are not legally placed, and over 2,000 military troops will have to go with the order. And of course, there's an appeals process, and they can work their way through that. But that's the judge's order. Charlotte, North Carolina's occupation by Border Patrol employees also appears to have ended due to a judge. So all of the, as you were mentioning before, they do anything and everything, and then they see what sticks, and most of it doesn't. So more stuff gone. Trump's $40 billion to Argentina may be slowing down. Apparently, U.S. banks involved are saying that they're willing to do about $5 billion as a starter, and that will cover Argentina's debt from last year, which was $4 billion. But then they're not so sure about the banks are not so sure about putting in the cash for the beyond that $5 billion and all the way up to the $40 billion. So we'll have to wait and see what Jamie over there in the financial world says. Jamie Dimon and the lot before anything else happens.
I'd
Anything on
like
the
to
40 billion?
no, but I'd like to go back to something we were discussing before. Um, for example, earlier on in the phone call, you were talking about things Trump does on the surface, and then we find out later the purpose of it, what was going on behind the scenes, what string he was trying to pull by a certain action that we could see publicly, we didn't know the motivation for. I feel like the six in Congress who spoke out about following legal orders versus illegal orders. I feel like they've been advised of something. Maybe it's as obvious as the extrajudicial Venezuelan boat killings. But I feel like someone has reached out to them, maybe some kind of a whistleblower, or maybe just through the intelligence they have access to as part of their duties. Someone has said something. And when you hear something like that, you can't just run and tell the public, hey, this top secret information came to light. Let me blather it all about it on the evening news. But what you can say is, I'm speaking to the people who might take these actions that are not legal. Don't do it. It's not right. That you can say. So I feel like these people coming out and saying these things, definitely there are motivations that aren't being seen. Um, and I just, what do you think about that?
Look, of course the intent matters. I mean, what is it that they're doing and why are they doing it? That's from the start. Um, what else is there really to go over?
I think I don't know. Maybe just noting that there's. I don't know if there's ever been a president. Every presidency has its secrets. They by the end, Joe Biden was a marionette, being armed, being moved around with a series of pulleys and dramatic lighting. Every president has a public face that they want to, they want to hide the underpinnings. But I don't know if any administration in modern memory has had so many surface level moves and uh, untold underpinnings. Trump has started and been really successful by waving his arms all the time and saying all kinds of crazy things all the time. Because if he just said one crazy thing, you'd go, "Wow, let's focus in on that." But if he says 78 of them, and one or two of those relate to something that he really doesn't want you to know about, the other 77 things will distract you just fine. And anyway, I think it's just worth noting that every time he does something crazy, people like to write it. We normalize these things. We make sense of it. We explain reality to ourselves in a way that lets us get through the day. But in fact, we should really be wondering, why is he doing these things? What purpose does it serve? And there's plenty. Anyway, there's plenty out there to keep an eye on, and I just think it's noteworthy and interesting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I guess the real response to that is man, woman, camera. It's it's the when you've got nothing, he's figured out that the being the television president, that television background where he figured out PR before he figured out anything else. That whole idea of distraction is works beautifully.
Yeah, yeah, we've fallen for it for too long, and we're still falling for it. We should be getting better at it faster than we are. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, excellent point. Excellent point. And so, actually, will an, someone who may be getting the point may be the folks in the Latino communities. There's been a Pew Research, uh, some polling and some information that they've been gathering, and looks like that now even a majority of the Latino community or communities are starting to say, you know what, it's worse here than due to the immigration policies. Things are worse here than they have been in the past. And matter of fact, over 60% that Pew spoke with said the economy is worse as well. So immigration policy is worse, the economy is worse, and this is a community that in the election voted over 40%, something like 43% for Trump. So this is another example of the base, his base, dissipating, and even before he's a lame duck, and that certainly is nothing good for him. So maybe people are starting to respond. You say that we're missing it. Well, maybe folks are starting to pick up on it and starting to actually react to it, and so we'll see what happens next, I guess. But interesting numbers.
Absolutely. I'm glad that at least people are plugged in enough to know that it's not going in their direction. I'm sad that they were so far removed and so taken by the hucksters' pitch around election time that so many people were fooled. I felt pretty certain that it wasn't going to be in their best interests to vote for this person. And in time, I've been vindicated. I am often wrong, but this wasn't one of those times. And at least they're coming around. But it's pretty sad that they were taken in the first place, because this magic man has no magic, and he certainly doesn't give a shit about you.
Certainly does not. That's true. That's true. Well, as we near the end, I think there's a new segment that I'm going to suggest here, and that
Okay.
is a quick set of issues that we did not get to tonight, but each one in a sentence. So we're not going to take a whole lot of time to look at them, but here's some things that have happened as well that we didn't get to cover. There were two National Guardsmen who were wounded in Washington, D.C. We don't know the result of that, but that's happened within the last day or so. Uh, Kash Patel, will he still be with the administration by the next time we have a show? Maybe we should buy a lettuce and see if which comes to their end first, the lettuce or Kash Patel, his job. Uh, Tennessee. Tennessee is shutting down their libraries. The state, they're shutting down their libraries so that they can weed out the banned books that the administration doesn't like. So,
Always a good sign.
yeah, exactly. What's wrong with this picture? And Georgia's prosecutor for the Trump election fraud case has been closed, and so it goes. We'll move on from there. And lest we forget, of course, we continue with our Epstein count up.
That's right.
These are the famous days since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released. I have a feeling that even with DOJ releasing something, that we will continue with this count up because it's about the unredacted Epstein list. And so far, that's 3,816 days in a row.
And counting.
And counting. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us at PolitiPod Live for Political Talk. You're welcome to join us every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for PolitiPod Live. If you want a political laugh, join us and a half dozen of our friends for our monthly political comedy podcast, PolitiPod, which you'll find at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod. This is Matt Nisanoff
And I'm Tom Bickle.
saying good night.